Yep, there goes my mic. Welcome everyone to our Housing and Homelessness Prevention Committee. The time is 1:08 and it's Thursday, March 5th. I'll go ahead and call the committee to order. That we do have a quorum present. And our first bill up is being provided by Senator Boldon, SF 3173. Senator Boldon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have 3 amendments. I wonder if I could move, well, I guess do we want to move the amendments first, or would you like me to describe the bill first?
Let's go ahead and just move the amendment and then you can go to the bill. So we have the A5 amendment. Can I ask, Senator Clark, will you make a motion to move the A5 amendment? Okay, we've got a motion to move the A5 amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, the A5 has been moved. Go ahead, Senator Boldon. Is there another one, or is that the only one? Oh, we do have A6 and A7 as well.
Correct. The A6, thank you, Madam Chair. The A6 is language to exempt group homes.
Okay. So we have the A6 amendment. Senator Clark, will you move the A6?
I move the A6.
Okay, we have a motion to move the A6 amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those who are opposed? You like this, huh? Okay, the A6 passes and moves. Now we have an amendment, the A7. Do you want to talk about the A7 real quickly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a technical amendment suggested by council, just adds one word to have the correct reference.
Thank you, Senator Boldon. Senator Clark?
Chair, I move the A7.
All right, Senator Clark moves the A7 amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, the A7 moves. Senator Boldon, to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members, for those amendments. So good afternoon. This bill before you may sound familiar, as this is an issue I've been working on as long as I have been in the Senate. This bill prohibits private equity companies from having a direct or indirect ownership in a single-family home of between 1 or 4 units, which are acquired after August 1st of 2026. I want to note there are some exemptions, as we are not aiming to include small mom and pop LLCs, new builds, or group homes, for example. The Attorney General's office would have enforcement authority over this prohibition, which can include injunctive relief and civil penalties of up to $25,000. And we did also add additional penalties of up to $100,000 per violation, with proceeds being redirected into the Affordable and Workforce Homeownership Program. The AG's office also is required to provide a 90-day written notice to a private equity company before enforcing any violations, giving them an opportunity to cure before penalties are enforced. As we have discussed many times in this committee, home ownership is something that continues to be out of reach for too many Minnesotans. Largely, this is people of color and working class families. In Minnesota, the reasons are varied, from lack of supply, as we just had a good conversation about that this week, to the high cost of housing, to discriminatory practices in the market, and of course, corporate ownership of single-family homes. This bill proposes one solution to the problem of corporate homeownership by creating a more level home buying market that gives more space for everyday Minnesotans who desire to own a home and have a shot in the marketplace. I want to be clear that this bill is not going to solve all of these issues. It is one piece of a puzzle, and we'll get at one part of this problem, but would make a significant difference. The Minneapolis Federal Reserve released a report in October of 2025 on investor home purchasing, which included significant findings that there are 60 census tracts across the Twin Cities where at least 10% of single-family homes are investor-owned rentals, and at least 10 tracts where more than 20% are investor-owned. In one neighborhood near the University of Minnesota, almost 43% of single-family homes are owned by investors. Across all single-family residential properties, investor purchasing in the Twin Cities region increased from 4.2 to 4.7% between 2024 and 2025. As of 2023, investors owned 6.1% of single-family homes in Minneapolis and 6.7% of single-family homes in St. Paul. And I want to emphasize, however, this is not just a Twin Cities issue. We are seeing this across the state. A Realtors report from June of 2025 also indicated that 13% of homes purchased nationally in 2024 were bought by investors. A Minnesota Reformer article from November of 2025 suggests that nearly 9% of residential parcels across 500 U.S. counties are owned by a corporation. Additionally, we have seen that when large corporations invest in low-income areas, they often have little to no incentive to properly maintain those properties. They jack up the rent, are often absentee landlords, leaving tenants paying very large amounts to live in poor conditions and not being able to reach their landlords. So for all of these reasons, as we continue to work on the increase in supply and affordability of homes, making sure that investors and wealthy interests aren't pushing families out of their community needs to be a top priority. Every Minnesotan deserves the option of homeownership, and this bill provides an opportunity to stop private equity companies with deep pockets from outpricing regular Minnesotans from their homes. And lastly, I just want to thank Senator Lucero for the partnership on this bill and the discussions, and Senator Draheim and Senator Abler and others as we work together to work on this important issue.
Thank you, Senator Boldon. Looks like we've got some testifiers. The first one is Miss Rachel Ruby Jones. If you want to come up. Oh, she's online. All right. Miss Jones?
Hi. Thank you so much for letting me be on Zoom today. My name is Rachel Jones, and I'm testifying today in support of the bill as I have firsthand experience renting from a private equity landlord, an experience that has literally changed my life. I signed a lease in February of 2019 to move into a single-family rental home in Minneapolis, even though it was apparent the property was not well cared for at all. However, I was in a vulnerable position. I had a toddler, I was pregnant, and I was finally leaving an abusive relationship. I needed stable housing quickly and felt I had few realistic options. I remember signing the lease with little time to consider alternatives. Soon after moving in, serious problems began. One Saturday afternoon in the spring, as the snow was beginning to melt, the basement started to flood. I called the emergency line as it was the weekend. After speaking with someone in a call center in Georgia, I was informed they would reach out to management. When I was finally contacted by management, I was told there would be no repair until after the weekend. I was asked to wait while water remained in the home. At the same time, management had also directed me to keep an extension cord running along the basement floor, this basement that is currently flooding, and the extension cord had to be plugged into a continuously running humidifier. Despite my lease that I signed with them explicitly saying that there should be no electrical cords running across the floor in the basement. Looking back, it's darkly comical how ridiculous this situation was, if not for the fact that I was literally scared of electrocution for myself, but most especially for my toddler. Over the next 2 years, the unit had repeated habitability and safety issues. One thing I vividly remember from all the fighting with the company was when I would finally reach a real-life person. On the other end of the phone, I was treated with such disdain. It was like it was my fault for not being able to afford my own home. Just another renter, just a person to farm rent money from. After 2 years of unresolved issues, I joined a lawsuit against the company because reporting problems produced no meaningful repairs or accountability. My experience was not isolated. Many neighbors, especially BIPOC families using rental assistance and subsidies, renting from the same company as me, experienced worse conditions. They were actually amazed I had occasionally talked to someone in management. I know a mother whose child suffered lead poisoning while living in one of the company's homes. The company's defense was that they had provided informational material about lead and therefore were not responsible. Renters as profit centers, nothing more. From my perspective, private equity ownership creates perverse incentives. Properties are treated as assets to be optimized for investors rather than as homes that require timely maintenance, safe conditions, and accountability to residents. When maintenance is deferred, costs and risks are shifted onto tenants, many of whom are low income, have limited mobility, or lack of resources to pursue remedies. The result is increased health risks, more housing instability, and families forced to endure substandard living conditions. I urge you to consider the human impact behind these ownership practices and pass the bill to help ensure homes are managed with accountability and to prevent companies that prioritize profit over people from owning single-family residences. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Next, we have Mr. Paul Egger.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Paul Egger, and I'm Senior Vice President of Governmental Affairs for the Minnesota Realtors Association. We have approximately 21,500 members working with property buyers and sellers statewide, and it's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify on Senate File 3173. I'm going to share just a few thoughts about the market that I think are relevant to the discussion on this bill. Share a couple of the concerns that we have in the language before you. And then finally, I want to offer just a few alternatives to the market prohibitions and restrictions approach taken in this legislation. I'd also really like to thank Senator Boldon. We've had a number of conversations over the years on this bill, and that conversation continues now. So I just want to thank her for her past time and for any future time we spend talking about the issues I'm going to discuss today. But I also want to say that we appreciate the goal of this bill, and we share the goal, which is getting more Minnesotans into home ownership, and have been really happy to work with members of this committee on initiatives like the First Generation Home Buyer Down Payment Assistance Fund, which was enacted a couple of years ago, and all the different efforts that are happening right now to try to get more Minnesotans that opportunity to have their own home. So just a little bit of context or some thoughts on the market as it pertains to the issues before you today. And I just want to say that history is important. The market conditions that we have today are very different than the market conditions we had following the 2008 housing crash, for example. So right now we have, as you all know, an undersupply of housing, and that undersupply can't meet demand, and that's driving up prices. Back in 2008, when the market crashed, we had a very different market, and that market was characterized by excess supply and not enough buyers. We had a period of several years, if you go back and look at the market data following the crash, where more than a third of sales were what we call distressed sales. They were foreclosures or short sales. In fact, in 2011, statewide, that number was 41%. Approaching half of all sales were distressed sales. It was a very challenging, heartbreaking kind of a market, and again, one that's very different than today. And as a result of those conditions, at that time, the federal government actually invited investors in to really create a floor on the housing market dropping any further. With homes being foreclosed, sitting vacant, falling into disrepair, there was a need for a different market participant that had the resources to come in and buy some of these properties, fix them up, turn them into rental, resell them at some point. So I just want to mention this is just market conditions do change. And it's something to keep an eye on as you're talking about any kind of legislation that would make a permanent change based on a temporary condition here. Just a couple of concerns that we want to highlight. And one is just a broader concern that we think buyers and sellers both benefit from there being a free and open real estate market with a lot of different participants in it. We also think that, you know, what may seem like a reasonable market intervention in the current climate may present a barrier to innovation later when those conditions shift again and change. And hopefully we won't see anything even approaching what we saw after the 2008 crash, but we never know. Markets are cyclical. And that having a real estate market that does not prohibit or restrict investors can also be beneficial to sellers, particularly when buyer demand drops, when life circumstances require a timely sale and immediate closing, or for those difficult to sell properties that need a lot of work. And just one specific issue to flag, and I shared this with Senator Boldon via email yesterday when we were chatting back and forth. I think the definition of private equity company in the bill, I understand, I think the intent, but it may be broader than is intended, and just something to look at moving forward to make sure that that's actually covering the universe that is attempting to be covered. Because right now it does appear that it could affect a much broader universe of small owners, and I just want to make sure that we understand that definition moving forward. And then finally, Chair and committee members, just some consideration of other alternatives to prohibitions and restrictions that I want to share is things like a capital gains exemption, tax exemption for investors who sell their single-family homes to owner-occupant buyers. Could enact a corporate income tax credit per unit sold to owner-occupants. Provide a deed tax exemption for that same purpose. Also, continued investment in programs like the first-generation home buyer down payment assistance fund to allow those first-generation buyers to be more competitive when the market is competitive. And then finally, I think the best way to minimize the role of investors in the market is to continue doing the work that this legislature has been doing the past few years to try to figure out how to bring more supply into the marketplace. More supply we have, I think that will minimize that role of investors that is a concern that is trying to be addressed in this bill. So thank you, Chair, members of the committee, for the opportunity to testify. And again, look forward to continuing the conversation as the bill moves forward.
Thank you, Mr. Egger.
Madam Chair.
Next, we have Mr.
Madam Chair.
Wyatt Ryan.
Can I ask a question while he's there? Is that
Yes.
all right? All right.
Senator Abler.
Well, thanks. I just want to appreciate you coming down, and it's nice to actually have a real dialogue. In the Education Committee yesterday, we just heard from advocates of a very controversial bill, and so I'm just glad that people come to have a genuine dialogue like this committee seems to be good at. And so I hear everything you say. And so how do we handle ethics in the world of commerce? That's the real question. And you probably keep an eye on this place. We talk about private equity in mobile home, manufactured home parks, where they are absolutely, in my opinion, unscrupulous. We try to set up programs so the residents can maybe buy it, and then they bid it up so high that, a rich person can barely afford it, and they just have their plan with their returns, and that's what we're facing. And I appreciate you working, and you're here, and I'm so grateful about it, but as just a person from a relatively blue-collar district, part of the pricing out of people's opportunities is simply, greed. And there was a movie, Greed is Good, but I don't know that it's helpful here. So as you talk to your peers, I don't know what happens in this place in 23 and 24. If this bill had been brought forward, it would have passed in a minute, and you would have been stuck with it. Currently in the House, it's one vote from passing something, and so your constructive engagement is really helpful. But if you can push the people that are behind you that care about this as well, and I believe every word you said about wishing more people could participate, please help us. I'm just deeply frustrated myself, but I'm truly grateful for you being there, but I'm just, at this point, we're going to pass this out of here, and it's not going to pass the House, and that was a nice experience that we all had. Is there some needle we can thread to get something to do to make the good happen that all of your agents and companies want, and that we're also after? So you can comment or take it as a comment, it's fine, but I just thank you for being here.
Thank you, Senator Abler. Mr. Egger, did you want to make a quick comment? And then we'll go to the next testifier.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Senator Abler, thanks for the comments. We are genuinely here to provide some feedback and to be part of discussions moving forward in the process. And I appreciate your comments.
Okay. Senator Gruhan.
And I get it, so thank you. I just want to thank you for being there.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, you listed off some alternative things that could be done. Could you just expound on them a little bit?
Mr. Chair, Senator Gruenhagen, I think the spirit of those suggestions were on the, if you think about the carrot and stick approach to policymaking, they're definitely on the carrot side. So what are those incentives that the legislature, the levers that you all have in the legislature to be able to incentivize certain behaviors? And in this case, it'd be incentivizing currently owners of single-family homes who are renting those homes out, provide an incentive for them to sell those to somebody who's going to occupy it as their primary residence. And the one that jumped to mind immediately to me when I was trying to think through different options and kind of doing a little bit of research is I think the capital gains tax deduction on the sale of homes from an investor to an owner occupant feels like it'd be a meaningful incentive.
In other words, waive the capital gains tax.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, or Madam Chair, yes.
Okay.
That's one option. You could do a scalable version. It's kind of, Madam Chair, you know, these are options worth exploring, we think, kind of the incentive-based approach, and it could be scaled from anything from an exemption to a reduction in the capital gains tax that you could pay. So there are different options there.
All right.
Yeah, see,
Senator Gruenhagen.
You know, it's like you said, the market has changed. We were short houses, which, you know, on a shortage, the price goes up. And then we have cash-rich private equities come in. They're discussing this nationally, too, and putting a prohibition on it, I believe. And I can see what the problem is that, you know, you don't have enough supply, and then cash-rich private equities come in and buy up houses that leave first-time home buyers short. So I kind of like your idea of creating some carrots, you know, the capital gains waiver and a few other things. I don't know how practical that would be, but the thing is that it would be good to incentivize private equities to sell to an individual at a reasonable price. And if they could save some money in the process, it might be attractive to them. But I guess I just encourage you to continue to have discussions with Senator Boldon. I understand Senator Boldon's desire because I've seen it. I own an independent insurance agency, and I've seen in a rural area, but you still see some of this going on. They just can't come up with the money to pay the property tax, everything else. And then on top of the price going up, then your property taxes are going up on top of it, which you're already having a hard time affording the house, much less the utilities and the property taxes on everything on top of it. So, but I do kind of like the idea of a carrot rather than just, you know, banning private equities from owning. But this is my first shot at this, so I'd have to think it through a little bit. So anyway, thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to save all my remarks to the end, but I think since we're on here, since we have the realtors up, I'll give a portion of it now. And I deeply appreciate the remarks that were given. And I am the example of what was just said. I remember when, obviously, 2008 happened. We had houses across the state, across the country, but let's just focus on the state, obviously, that were in foreclosure. And I didn't realize it was up to 41% is what I heard, 41%. And so for those who lived through that, we can remember the time when you go down the block in some neighborhoods and there were a number of homes right next to each other on the same block, and it would create a blight, and it would create or potentially attract those who would come in and vandalize because it was tall grass. There were all kinds of different conditions, garbage in the yard, et cetera. And then in those times, all the lending institutions overnight locked the credit. Nobody was able to get approved for lending. You had to have a great credit, and the ability. And then many of these, so in addition to credit being locked, the condition of the homes, for those who are familiar, there's a number of criteria that Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac require for the minimum standards of a home to even be financeable. So for example, I can't remember them all. The water being turned off, I think, was one of them. If the stove is missing, it's not financeable. If there is heavily damaged or soiled floor coverings, it's not financeable. If there's holes in the walls, it's not financeable. So there's a number of these conditions. If there's missing or broken windows, there's a number of things. So the point is, if a property is not financeable and people weren't able to get credit to lend, the only entities that were able to do though were cash buyers at the time, or organizations that had a ton of cash to be able to do it. And so that's why we saw this. And what I think happened is these equity firms or larger entities, they had previously not been playing to the degree they are now in the real estate investment market. But once they got a taste of it, they realized the ROI was significant. Not only the equity that was being built in the homes, but then the month over month or year over year cash flow ROI. And then the other thing, if you recall, the Federal Reserve then lowered the interest rate to what, 0.25%. So think of yourself as an equity firm then. Where would you go to get a return on investment? It was really a challenge in that environment to get an ROI in other types of traditional forms of investment. So here you just putting on the hat then of these firms, they said, well, it's a very challenging market to get a return. So real estate is one of those areas where we see that we can get a return in this environment. So then you have these firms purchase, they fix up, and in those, it was a number of years, I think it was 2015, I'm looking to my other realtors, was it roughly 2015 when the market came back, I think, for the most part? So you have 2008, 9-ish, then to 2014, 15-ish. Well, you can't, if you have these homes that are in a deteriorating condition on the block, and imagine being a neighbor next to one of the, or several of these houses, right? Tall grass, garbage in the yard, potentially attracting people that are breaking in, et cetera. You want somebody to own it. Well, if these firms then were the only ones available with the cash to be able to buy them, we have to recognize also then the conditions at the time were, since the market didn't come back for a number of years, and if you invested money to fix these properties up, you wouldn't be able to sell them right away. You had to be able to hold them for a number of years until the market did come back. And so there's a series of things here that we all have to take into consideration, and I deeply appreciate what was just said. The markets are cyclical, and the conditions that created that, as some of these conditions I just enumerated, those could return. Hopefully they don't, but those could be. And if we have something in statute, is it going to be a hindrance? Believe me, it's top of my mind that all of this, those who went through that, and we don't want to create these barriers as we look for these solutions to allow for those opportunities for the younger generation, the first-time home buyers of these homes in this class. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Housley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Boldon, for bringing this legislation forward. And as a realtor back in the day, too, when the market crashed, it was heartbreaking to sit at the kitchen table with clients whose home is going into foreclosure and looking for anybody to please get them out from under the rug to save them. But it did deteriorate to the point that Senator Lucero was talking about, the grass in the yard. It was to the point where homeowners were taking all of the appliances, they were taking the toilets, they were taking the sinks, they were taking the vanities, they were just taking everything they could because the market had dropped so far. And there were certain neighborhoods that were even worse than others, so you welcomed anybody that would come in. So what worries me about this legislation is with the ebb and flow of the market, which came back finally in 2015, putting a prohibition on any of that maybe possibly being needed again. I do like some of the alternative suggestions from the Realtors Association, especially getting current renters into homeownership, increasing the supply. What can we do here at the state to help increase the supply? I'm hoping, Senator Boldon, as this bill goes forward, we could maybe work together to maybe tweak it a little bit further. But I completely understand what Rachel Ruby Jones was saying. I get it. And I'm sure what Mr. Ryan is going to be saying coming up from Rochester. So thank you very much. And let's see if we can tweak this a little bit better going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Housley. We will move to Wyatt Ryan, who is testifying on Zoom. Oh, it's a video testifier who was not able to make it during this period.
And I've been a Minnesota resident my entire life. Hi, my name is Wyatt Ryan, and I've been a Minnesota resident my entire life. On Saturday, October 26th of 2024, Black Swan, the company that owns and manages this building, which my sister and I were renting, hired a company to come clean the carpets in the hallways. They set up their gas generator underneath the building inside the garage and proceeded to run it for 4 hours straight, starting at 8 a.m., causing toxic fumes to enter the building. Multiple residents contacted the emergency phone line where no one picked up, nor did they receive a call back after leaving messages. Messages were also sent through the tenant portal, which were ignored. Around 3:45 that afternoon, the fire department was dispatched to our building, evacuating everyone and testing them for carbon monoxide poisoning. The following Monday, Black Swan sent out an email stating that they would be taking additional precautions to prevent it from happening again. And when I asked for specifics, they told me they don't have to do anything else because the city checked their carbon monoxide alarms in January. Over the next week and a half of emailing back and forth, they downplayed the severity of what happened, failed to apologize or take any form of accountability, and when confronted with a timeline of events where they could have prevented the situation, responded with, "Your feedback has been noted and will be reviewed by the appropriate teams to assess and improve our procedures moving forward." No less than 2 weeks later, my coworker and their partner were trying to buy their first home, and a Black Swan team member was also there to buy the home, where they could easily outbid prospective buyers well over asking price. These are the kinds of companies buying up properties, companies with a blatant disregard for the safety of their residents, only seeking to cut costs, increase profits, expand their portfolios, and take away people's opportunities to buy their first home. While I think there's more work to be done, this bill is a huge step in the right direction, and I want to commend you for reaching across the aisle to give generations of future homeowners the opportunity to purchase and for bettering the safety of tenants going forward. Thank you.
Senator Boldon, do you have comments you want to make at this time, or should we go to member questions? Senator Pa and then Senator Draheim.
Thank you, Chair. Senator Boldon, I want to thank you so much for bringing forward this bill. I'm a proud co-author of this bill, and this is why. I've spent most of my entire adult life in the real estate industry, and I have been sounding the alarm for years. Something has drastically changed in the single-family housing market. For decades, homeownership has been the pathway for families to build stability and build generational wealth. I hear the discussion of the times discussion that we're having here, but that's exactly why we must act now, because this condition of this current time needs it. Today, when families compete against billion-dollar investment funds, it is simply not a fair fight. In my district, it is happening again and again, where family after family have been saving for years to buy a home, to find a house that's perfect for them that they can afford. But then when the offers come in, they don't lose to another family. They lose that home to an investment company that offers cash, can close in a matter of weeks, most times and sometimes in days. And those homes that should have been family homes and investments are now owned and are large investment firms in their portfolio, in private equity companies' portfolios. That story is happening over and over across Minnesota. Homes are meant for families. They're not meant to be turned into investment portfolios. The bill that you're carrying, thank you for doing that, simply says that single-family homes should be first homes for families and not assets for private equity firms. And so by addressing this problem, we can help to make sure that we level the playing field so Minnesotans have a real chance to actually own homes in their community. So I hope that this bill will be one of our top priorities to pass this year because our constituents, our residents need it. Thank you, Senator Boldon.
Thank you, Senator Paz. Senator Draheim.
Thank you, Chair. Good to have you back. Thank you, Senator, for bringing the bill, and thank you for the discussion on this. And I'm not going to try to rehash some of the comments that were made already. But back in the early 2000s, you would list a home for years, and it would take over a year to sell most homes in my area during the worst of it. Today, it's days. And as Senator Housley was mentioning, to sit at the kitchen table and kind of go through what we call a net sheet, kind of saying, okay, we think your house is worth this. This is what it's going to cost. This is what you owe on the bank, to the bank, the mortgage, or second mortgage in some cases, and then see that negative number, and then watch him cry. They couldn't do it. And they wanted to get out. And there are a lot of proud people out there that work their tails off for their home, their only asset. And at that point in time, they had nothing. They had zero. But they wanted to get out from underneath it. And I agree with my colleague that having billion-dollar companies come in and buy up the stock is the last thing we want. But this bill doesn't do just that. It bans local investors to buy homes. And I think we're pretty short-sighted if we're just looking at the real estate market of the last, let's say, 7-10 years. You know, little gray hair, go back a little farther. That time period caused a lot of suicides, a lot of mental health problems for people that had no options. So we're eliminating some of that options. And then I'm just going to turn around a little bit and a couple other points. So I just sold this winter a property to two best friends. Two best friends. They've been friends since high school, actually since like elementary school. They do a project every other year or whatever. This bill would stop that from happening. So on one hand, we have a definition in our paid family medical leave that is open to everybody. And then here, we're saying they have to be family to be exempt. And I think there are incidences where these two guys are like brothers more than most brothers I know. But they would be exempt from buying an investment property under your proposed bill as drafted. Back in the mid-2000s, I worked with a lot of banks to sell their distressed assets. And I don't want, this isn't a banking committee, I'm not going to get into that, but when you have a small town bank that has, and I don't know the nomenclature 100%, but it's kind of an owned asset where they can't borrow against that asset. So it goes into a special bucket and it counts against them. So they can't borrow out money to the next person that wants to borrow money to buy a home or start a small business. And we're not talking the big players, you know, and up here, you can't drive down a block without seeing a bank. But in a lot of these small towns, there's one bank. Or for every 2-3 towns, there's one bank. So in those smaller communities, there aren't a lot of liquid assets available, especially during this time back in the early 2000s. So I obviously I'm a short timer here. I'm not going to be here next year, and I think this bill needs more work. My recommendation, if you wanted to do something right now, I would maybe suggest putting a definition on private equity companies over $100 million or something like that. So you go after the big players until we can work out these fine details. But to me, it's more than just these private equity. We have a lot of other players buying up homes, and we had a private discussion. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. You know where I'm coming from on that. But 41% of the homes underwater back in the early 2000s, that's a lot. And we're going to eliminate a lot of options for people that don't have a lot of options. And I have sold property from literally Montevideo to Rochester and way up north to the Iowa border. I've been all over the state at one point in my time helping somebody out buy or sell a property, a business or home or whatever it is. They're not all the same. And the market up here is totally different than driving a couple hours in almost any direction. So just be mindful that there are parts of the state where you can go buy a home for $50,000, $60,000 because there's no one looking to buy a home in those communities other than investors. And you're going to eliminate that. And I'm not talking the big players that are up here buying blocks of homes. I don't like that. But this one-size-all approach just doesn't work, and we need to tweak it a little bit. So if you really want to do something, I would figure out, define private equity company over X amount and start there, and then have you guys come back and continue to work on that definition. Because as drafted, you're going to eliminate a lot of good people that come in. You know, I sold most of my, when I got elected, I didn't want a conflict of interest. So I got out of everything, except for a couple years ago, I was approached by a good friend who needed a fifth investor in an 8-plex. And for those who don't know, to buy investment properties like an 8-plex, you usually need 20% down. Well, this was a distressed 8-plex. It had sat empty for a year. And so it wasn't just the 20% that we needed to put down. It was another 150,000 probably in immediate repairs. Who are you going to have do that? So that type of investment, and I know this is a little off topic with an 8-plex versus what you're talking, but it's the same principle. There was no one around willing to do that. So with that bill that you have drafted here, I would not be able to help a friend invest in something so we could fix it up. And we have Section 8. We help those that don't have a lot of options. So I can't support this as drafted. I support the concept, like we said last year. You know, we do have a problem with big companies coming in and buying up homes. But this is a little more encompassing, and I know you've worked at it. I know you've talked to a lot of people. I appreciate that. I think housing development needs to be defined a little bit. I'm not really sold on the increase the value of a home by 20% or more on 2.3. I think that needs to be tweaked. And obviously, like we've discussed, the private equity company definition. Good intentions, but I know it's hard because we don't have a lot of these terms defined in statute. But right now, we're trying to fix a problem where we have less inventory. That's one part. And then we heard from the nice lady who testified, Ms. Jones, about a bad landlord. And I know my apartment up here in St. Paul, I do not care for my landlord or the management company that runs it. I don't think they do a very good job. I don't think they respect the residents. So I understand that there is a big problem with how property is run and how residents are treated. I get that 100%, but this won't fix it. So I want to protect people's number one asset. And I've been a broken record on that for 10 years. But I think this just goes a little too far. So I hope this isn't going anywhere soon where we could work on, my understanding it has to go to judiciary. Is that right, Chair? And then what is the plan after that? Do you know?
It would come back here.
Okay, that is wonderful. I'll just be quiet. And I know. Thank you, Eric. But I appreciate the time, and I hope we can work on this together. Senator, I do appreciate your time on this, but this is so important. If we get this wrong, we're going to ruin a lot of communities. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Draheim. Senator Lucero?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm so appreciative of Senator Pa and Senator Draheim, what they just said, Senator Boldon. So I said a piece earlier of my concerns. I am in support of this bill, not as it's drafted, but the concept. And I'm in support of the continued conversations, and I loved that it's going to be coming back here because it does need more work. But so 2023, we come into this committee. I don't know many of the senators from Adam, but one of the senators was Senator Pa, and I remember, and I've shared this story a number of times because I've never thought of it from this perspective before. So I'm gonna take her story, but it was, there are people that don't have generational wealth. There are people that they're immigrants, they're, whatever their background, and you need to have two people come together or a handful of people come together to pool their resources to be able to invest. And I was a concern along those lines, and that's resonated with me. I love what Senator Draheim just said, that if we get it wrong, we're going to destroy communities. It's not the same. The challenges are different in different parts of the community. And one thing I would add then is the seller's perspective. So imagine now you're in the shoes of a seller. You want a multi-offer situation. You want somebody with deep pockets to come in and offer you a good price, because you might be downsizing. You might be that empty nester couple. You might be retirement now and you're moving on to senior living community, and then whatever price you get is going to fund your medical needs, et cetera. So you want that higher price. So boy, it sure is a tug of war between how do you get the price down so the next generation can buy, and how do you get the price up so that it can fund those retirement. And that's what's so challenging about this topic. It's so challenging about this topic because this is not partisan at all. That's why I like this bill and this topic, because this is striking everybody across the board. And I think we all have concerns about the language as written. I think we all have concerns about the lack of opportunity for people trying to buy homes. And I think we have concerns about these large private equity firms. I love the idea, as we've been brainstorming, as Senator Boldon and I have been working together, I love the idea that Senator Draheim just brought up of maybe we add an element to the definition of the assets. Maybe that will be helpful or not. I'm going to chew on that to try to further refine who we're trying to target here of prohibition. So with that, Madam Chair, I do have another meeting I have to run off to, but again, thank you, Senator Boldon. Thank you for all the members on this committee as we continue to chew on this.
I apologize, Senator Boldon. I didn't give you a chance to respond to Senator Draheim either. Do you want to make comments now?
Happy to. And I will say I very much appreciate this conversation, and I'm very open to and look forward to continued conversations about this. We do want to get this right. As has been said, we have been, talking about this. I think this is my 4th year bringing a different sort of version, a different sort of angle to come at this. I don't want us to continue to just admire this problem. I want us to do something about it. This is a moment, as Senator Paz said, that we should be acting, and we want to get it right. To Senator Draham's comments, the intention of this is not to get at the little guy, is not to get at small, 2 best friends who are purchasing a home together. That is not the intent of this. It is to get at, as Senator Paz said, these big private equity entities who are, swooping in, able to offer, a cash offer at way over asking and in very short time, and waiving an inspection, and then treating their tenants, as we heard people describe. And I will just say, those are not one-off examples. That is, I've heard many, many stories along those same lines. That is not an infrequent experience for tenants who are living in these spaces owned by these private equity companies. So it is a significant problem that we need to take action on. And, this bill hopefully passes out here and goes to judiciary, where we can have more conversations about the definitions and our corporate entity structure is complicated in Minnesota. And so I've been working with council to get that right, and happy to have more conversations to be sure that we are targeting the entities that really are the biggest problem here, and that we are not excluding other people who are not the problem.
Thank you, Senator Boldon. I will just make one comment, and then I've got Senator Gruenhagen on the list, and then I would like to go to the vote so that we can get to our other bill. But I didn't miss the fun. I was hoping you guys didn't have too much fun without me, but I didn't miss it, because I do like that this committee digs into this stuff. And there is significant willingness in this committee to work on policies to get them right. You've spent 4 years working on this, and I really appreciate that, because this is a complex problem. And I think, there's been a lot of comparisons made to the bubble in the early 2000s and then the horrific crash. And I think it's important that we remember that, that was due to, illegal, taking advantage of people. And much of it, there were unfortunately not enough cases of people being held accountable for it, but there was just, people were taken advantage of by huge mortgage companies to get them into homes that they had no business being in, that they could not afford, but it was a trading game. And people made a lot of money, and as Senator Housley said, people lost everything. And they had to sit around those kitchen tables and make horrible decisions. And I think one thing we all share is we don't want something like that to happen again. And I do have concerns right now with the elimination of the committee, the council that oversaw those large banks and mortgage companies after doesn't exist anymore. That makes me nervous. This new sort of player of these giant private equity companies makes me nervous. And I think we cannot allow another huge, very opaque industry to come in and leach the wealth out of our communities, because I think we all agree your best opportunity for upward mobility in your community is to own a home. And so I am just really grateful for your willingness to keep digging in on this. I don't envy you at all, because this seems like a really complicated thing to get right. But I know we have a committee full of people who want to get this right, and I appreciate your work on that. Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I appreciate the discussion also. And I know you want to get it right, just like I think everybody does here. And we don't want to overdo it, and we don't want to underdo it, and we want to see people get their. I just remember when I got my first house, I bought on contract for deed, bought it from an individual, and I had just started insurance, and to say we were poor was probably an understatement. I had to use insurance checks at that time. We just had our first little baby, and the insurance checks came to me to pay. Oxborough Clinic actually was one of them. And I cashed the insurance checks to pay for gas to sell insurance. So it took me about 4 years to pay my first child off. So I was so happy that this individual was willing to work with me on a contract for deed to sell me my first house. And it turned out real good, and we sold it a few years later. But anyway, whenever I look at a problem, and it's just this input, in a lot of cases, I look at it as putting a lid on or turning the burner down, okay? If you got a boiling pot of water. You can put the lid on, but that doesn't turn the burner down, okay? And I like to see the burner turned down versus putting a lid on necessarily. Not that it isn't necessary to put a lid on sometimes, okay? And I guess what I'm talking about is that when these companies, and I did like Senator Draheim's comment that you put a lid on the net value or whatever. Anybody below this can do that. Anybody above can't. And, $100 million or whatever. But I would really like if you'd consider, if it was possible, to put some incentives for these private equity companies or individuals in general, that if they sell their house to a first-time home buyer, that, they don't have to pay capital gains. That you incentivize them through the tax code to sell to a first-time home buyer at a more reasonable price. And if they save on the tax side, it would be easier for them to do it, okay? That's all I'm throwing out for food for thought, okay? Because obviously these equity companies own homes. It would be nice to see them be incentivized to sell to first-time home buyers. And I know at the federal level they're considering some things like using IRA or 401k retirement money for, that you could draw out without penalty to use as a down payment. I know that's one of the ideas that's being floated out there. So again, when we look at solutions, I always put it into two categories primarily: a lid or turn the burner down. I like to turn the burner down, okay? Because that reduces the boiling and incentivizes, business people for the most part, they can be greedy, but they can be rational. And you show that they don't have to pay capital gains or do some other things, and they could save money, they're gonna take advantage of that, okay? And especially if we incentivize them in a way to sell to first-time home buyers, which is what we all want, because we want people to have their chance at the American dream. So that's just my comments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. I would just like to remind this committee that we do not make tax policy in this committee. And if Senator Ress asks, I said that out loud to everybody. Senator Boldon, do you have any closing comments before we move the bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, just to members, I thank you for this really good conversation. I truly do appreciate it. And we'll take this in, and we'll certainly, continue the work as we move forward. To Senator Gruenhagen's point, I hear you. I'll note that comes with a price tag, and so would be, that's just another conversation to have. As was said, I have been working on this for 4 years. I also just want to note that prior to me taking this over, the late Senator Carrie Dietzick works on this as well. And so it is the work. We will keep working on it. It is important that, that we do this for Minnesotans who are, we want to be sure that everyone who wants to can purchase a home. And we have a lot of work to do to make that a reality for people. And this is a piece of that. And so would ask for member support to move to judiciary and to continue the work.
Thank you. Members, Senator Boldon moves that Senate File 3173 as amended be recommended to pass and re-referred to the Committee on Judiciary. All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? The motion prevails. Your bill is on the way, Senator Boldon. To your next bill, Senate File 3614. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and present that bill.
Thank you, Chair Port. I appreciate the opportunity to present Senate File 3614. In January of 2026, the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency released their annual report titled Annual Estimation of Emergency Rental Needs for Minnesotans with Low Incomes. That report, which is in your packets, showed that Minnesota households with low incomes are an estimated 260,000 months behind on their rent. Multiply that with the number of average gross rent and utilities for households who are at or below 200% of the poverty limit, and the total funding needed for emergency rental assistance, that comes to an estimated $350 million. As you can see, the bill before you amends the biennial MHFA appropriation found in Chapter 32 of 2025 session law. I want to thank Chair Port for her advocacy for this budget throughout last session's negotiations, and want to recognize that with a limited target for this committee, she was able to secure $8.4 million in one-time funding for the Family Homelessness Prevention and Assistance Program, an additional $1 million in ongoing funding. And it is not enough. Members, the proposal before you today is for $35 million for FHPAP, which is a mere 10% of the $350 million in estimated need for emergency rental assistance. I understand that we are in a challenging budget situation as a state, but so are the 140,000 Minnesota renters who are severely cost burdened and paying more than 50% of their income on housing. As legislators, we will have difficult decisions to make in the coming years about our fiscal priorities, but these families cannot wait. We have the means to act now, and we should. As we've heard multiple FHPAP bills over our years together on this committee, I will just briefly share that FHPAP is a proven program delivered through trusted regional partners. These grants provide flexibility to respond to the individual needs of families. And we know, as we have had conversations, that it is far more effective, cost-effective, to keep families housed rather than having them slip into homelessness and have to then figure out how to get them rehoused. And so this is a program that is proven, it is successful, it is needed now more than ever, and the needs are far greater than what this ask is, but this would get us a little bit further down that road to be able to help more folks and keep families housed.
Thank you, Senator Boldon. We will go to testifiers. First, virtually, I have Tavon Grayson. If you could please unmute yourself, introduce yourself for the committee, and then present your testimony.
Hello, Committee Port and members of the committee. My name is Tavon Grayson, but I go by Vine. I'm an advocacy fellow with the Minnesota Coalition for the Homeless, and I also serve on the Survivory Council with Women's Advocates, where I help lift up the voices of survivors and families navigating unsafe housing and violence. I'm here today in strong support of Family Homeless Prevention and Assistance Program, or FHPAP. I'm not speaking about housing instability in the abstract. After leaving an abusive marriage of 16 years, I became homeless. I had to start over from a place of deep trauma with my safety, my stability, and my sense of self all shaken. In that moment, I wasn't just looking for a roof over my head. I was trying to rebuild my life after long-term abuse. FHPAP was part of what helped me do that. Through short-term financial assistance and supportive services, FHPAP helped me move out of homelessness and into stable housing after I left my marriage. That support gave me breathing room to focus on parenting and rebuilding instead of constantly where I would lay my head next. For survivors, that stability can literally be the difference between going back to an unsafe situation or being able to be free. When FHPAP is funded well, it keeps families out of homelessness, reducing trauma for children, and saving saving public systems money in the long term. Right now, the need outpaces the resources. That means frontline staff are forced to decide which families or survivors get help and which ones are turned away, even though both clearly qualify in crisis. I'm asking you to invest in and strengthen FHPAP so that more households and more survivors can be reached before and during homelessness. Thank you for your time and your commitment to Minnesotans.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Grayson, and for sharing your story. The next testifier we have is Randy Callahan. Ms. Callahan, if you could just introduce yourself for the record once you get settled and present your testimony whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and distinguished members of this committee. My name is Randy Callahan. I am the Director of Community Supports at Three Rivers Community Action. Three Rivers is a local, trusted, and effective nonprofit dedicated to providing critical support to individuals and families in our community, helping them achieve stability through a variety of programs, including housing assistance. I'm here to support Senate File 3614 to fund FHPAP. FHPAP is one of the key programs we administer. It prevents families from becoming homeless. Three Rivers and our subgrantees administered over $6 million in FHPAP funding last biennium, directly supporting thousands of families. Despite this investment, demand consistently exceeds available funding. To ensure fairness and consistency, we have implemented a structured prioritization process. And even with that in place, we are forced to turn away eligible households and unable to meet the full need. For prevention, since January 1st, more than 225 households have requested assistance but remain without support due to limited funding. Behind this number are real households in our communities. The need spans every stage of life, from young adults just starting out to older adults in their late 70s. Participants include families with children, youth exiting foster care, individuals who have fled domestic violence, and veterans. On average, 56% of those we serve are families rather than individuals, and 75% of them have income. These are working households doing everything right, yet one unexpected expense can push them to the brink. We assisted a family with 2 children under 5 who were at risk of eviction due to a car repair bill. They had one vehicle and they had to make the hard decision. Do I pay my car repair or do I pay my rent? Do I pay to go to work or do I pay my rent? Without FHPAP, they would have lost their housing. When families do not receive timely prevention assistance, the consequences are severe. Once an eviction appears on a record, securing new housing becomes significantly more difficult. Housing instability disrupts children's education, healthcare access, and emotional well-being. We see the stress, the trauma, and the long-term ripple effects that follow displacement. Housing and living costs continue to rise, and more working families are operating with no financial cushion. We know that homelessness is far more costly to communities than prevention. Without adequate FHPAP funding, we will see more families living in cars, entering shelter systems, or cycling through crisis services. FHPAP works. It keeps families housed, children stable, and communities stronger. Continued and increased investment in this program is not only compassionate, it is fiscally responsible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Callahan. Members, questions, discussion, amendments? Senator Pah.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to thank Senator Boldon again for this incredible bill, and it's much needed. I'm in full support. We all know that in every corner of our state, families are struggling to stay in their home, the homes that they already have. Emergency rental assistance is one of the most effective tools we have to stabilize families quickly. Sometimes families just need a little help. 7 out of 10 families today are living paycheck to paycheck. That means one unexpected bill, one medical emergency, or one lost paycheck, and suddenly they have lost their home and they have lost everything. So when we prevent an eviction, we're not just paying someone's rent, we're actually protecting them from homelessness. These are families. We're keeping children in their schools, we're keeping families together and housed. So this funding is crucial, and it ensures that Minnesotans can actually make sure that they live in a home that's stable and a place that they feel safe in. So I encourage everyone to please support this funding because it is much needed here. Thank you.
Senator Abler.
Well, thank you, and I think it's we're all going to try to claw for whatever we can get in the scrum. And it seems like of all the things, this is a worthy thing to put into the mix. And I'm happy to vote for it and to move it into that level. Just want to also throw a plug out for community action. It's, I don't know everyone across the state, but they're just, my experience with them is you worry about fraud and misappropriation. I mean, actually, if there was fraud there, they would probably go physically, restrain them. Like, what are you doing? And so, I mean, they're just so put together, and they're really good at determining need, and I presume they have some kind of partial help they give people or something. And I think as we look for ways to, especially with some of these emergency funds, I think the more that we rely on agencies like them, they know their areas, and I think I don't even know how much we use them, but I think it's just great. And so that's all. Thank you.
Senator Draheim.
Thank you, Chair. And maybe you mentioned it. What is the path of this bill?
To finance.
To finance. So can we talk about targets? Is this?
Yes. My understanding, and this certainly may change, is that we will not get individual committee targets, that we will send our finance bills, those particularly that we deem most urgent and critical, to the Finance Committee, and the Finance Committee will put together a single supplemental budget bill. There may be individual bills outside of that that need to move faster, but my understanding is it is the plan that the Finance Chair will carry the supplemental budget bill.
Thanks for the info. Thank you.
Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, well, we certainly want to help people who are having problems struggling to pay the higher and higher rent, it seems. But I guess I just have a comment. We have to understand that when government is an expense on the private sector, okay? When you grow government at 40% over a 2-year period of time, you raise taxes another 9 to 10 billion on top of it, you're going to get 70% of the people not being able to pay their rent, okay? Or live paycheck to paycheck. So you add the Green New Scam to it and a host of other government regulations and laws that drive up the cost, and you create this mess, okay? So I think it's a good time to sit back and say, hey, government cannot grow faster than the private sector. And yet in Minnesota, we seem to think we can grow at any rate that we want and then try to pick up the pieces afterwards and take money from everybody else and give it to everybody else and then say, well, we're doing our job. No, we're not doing our job. Our job is we're making things much worse by growing government at a rate that's much faster than the private sector. And that's unfortunately the consequences of what we're dealing with. Thank you.
Senator Boldon, I want to thank you for bringing this bill. Ms. Grayson's testimony really hit home for me because part of the work I've been doing in the other subcommittee on federal impacts is tracking the impacts of changes from the federal government. And one that just sits in my gut is that they have canceled most of the sexual assault survivors, victim survivors funds that go to helping them get rehomed, helping them get the mental health support they need, helping them keep children safe and healthy as they leave abusive relationships. And the loss of that funding is devastating. So I'm really glad that this program exists to be one of the paths that can help people leave a situation like that where they aren't safe and get to safe housing. There's lots of other great reasons to support this bill, but Ms. Grayson's testimony was particularly impactful. So I want to thank her. I want to thank you. Any closing comments before we move your bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members. I would urge your support for this. There are a lot of reasons why Minnesotans are feeling squeezed right now in many ways. was in the Health and Human Services Committee this morning where we had a whole hearing about food insecurity. 20% of Minnesota families are food insecure. The high cost of groceries, healthcare costs. A whole lot of Minnesotans are about to, looking at losing their healthcare coverage, and figuring out then, how, are they going to buy groceries or are they going to pay to go to the doctor? Rent is increasing. That's connected to our conversation earlier. There are many, many reasons why Minnesotans are having to make really, really difficult and terrible choices. As we heard before, do I pay for a car repair or my rent? No family should become homeless because they have a $200 car repair bill. It makes no sense. It is just wrong, but it also makes no sense financially. And so our job is to make Minnesotans' lives better. And this is a piece of doing that. And as I said, the need is far greater than what this bill is asking for, but this $35 million will make a difference for many, many families. It will keep children housed. It will prevent trauma. It will keep people safe and secure. And so I would ask for members' support.
Thank you, Senator Boldon. Senator Mohammed moves that Senate File 3614 be recommended to pass and re-referred to the Committee on Finance. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion prevails and your bill is on the way.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Senator Abler.
Yeah, we're done with business. I just have a question.
We are, yeah. I just have a few housekeeping things.
Okay, I'll be the
Go ahead.
housekeeping guy. So, just the rent, that emergency rent bill went to judiciary and it had a little extra thing loaded onto it. And is that going to the floor?
It is, yes. It went through finance this morning, and it's going to the floor.
So, just in a friendly way about this topic in general. So, I'm not on the inside of anything. Mm-hmm. So, your idea about it's all going to finance to make a big bill together was news and interesting, and I wonder how the House will be doing their thing. But anyway, it's all a lot of drama, and so. You probably get to go to the real meetings. And so if you want to comment to your leadership, that takes away the ability of the different committees to prioritize their stuff. The target reason there's targets is everybody gets to suffer together to decide. Mm-hmm. And you have been very collaborative about that. And we put the bill together as good as we could last time. And so the 75 million on the rent thing?
It's now down to 40.
Oh, 40. Okay. Well, it's all right. The slim.
And we found a revenue neutral way to pay for it.
Oh, yeah. So. Okay. Well, that's actually lucky. So that's not going to count against you, against the money. So it's kind of like free money. And just, I think I'm a co-author. I like the rent part, but I don't think I can vote for the eviction part. And I just want to encourage you, if anybody understands this, and I'm trying to make this pitch wherever I go, is that group over there they're not getting along real well, if you notice that. And the more that we can find ways to get strong support of things, the better. And I'm just disappointed I'm not going to vote for that. And I really, really wanted to, and I'm not even lecturing you. I'm just like sad. And the more the things that if you could just talk to people and see like what would draw more support. You might get several people on my side of the aisle voting for $40 million as a standalone bill. Just a thought. So, and I don't know how the story ends here, but I hope that you succeed in at least getting that. And I know people want the eviction relief, and I'm sympathetic to all that, and there's just a practicality. So anyway, thank you, and I'm glad you've got a bill that's moving, so thank you.
Thank you, Senator Abler, and I will follow up with you offline about the eviction thing, but it is just a short-term extension to help people have time to access aid. It is not an eviction moratorium. I would also say, I hear your comment on it is the work of the committee to decide what our priorities are as we move through this process. And usually we get to have an omnibus bill in front of us that we can all make amendments on and make our cases. Because that'll be a little bit different this year, I would still like that input from committee. And so it's my intention to like either have a meeting for all of us, sort of, off the books or outside of committee time to talk about those priorities, or do a survey or something, because I do think, we should move what we can move, what is most effective, and I think that this committee works very collaboratively together.
And just to add to the joy of your task, I imagine the governor might have a few ideas about what he might be suggesting to us.
I'm
Just a
assuming we'll be
random
getting a
thought.
bill to that effect sometime
you.
soon. So with that, we do not yet have jackets for several bills that will be coming before us, so we will not meet this coming Tuesday. And our next hearing will be scheduled for Thursday, March 12th. And there being no other business before us, we are adjourned.